Be
Just want to
happy.
catch up.
Yeah.
Well, happy Wednesday, everyone. Hope you guys are having a good morning, well, afternoon, good week so far. Welcome to Midnight Hatter Live, the weekly variety show where we talk Gunpla, video games, tabletop games, all that good stuff. I'm your host, Steven, and joining me as always is the well-branded Adam Blue. How you
That's
doing,
right.
buddy?
Representing. It cost me so much to put the sticker on the shirt. But
I said it looked embroidered. You're
funny.
selling yourself out.
I know. It's funny. No, this is just my company shirt, my day job thing. I
Right,
try
that
to
is your
rep
company shirt.
when. Oh, you got it too?
Logo.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So it's like a dual company shirt. There
There
you
you go. And joining us today, we've got a special goose. You know him, you love him. A special goose.
Your favorite
special
water
guest.
fowl.
Yeah,
Goose.
I thought you did that on purpose. That was good.
Special guest in third chair. Goose, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Oh, doing good, man. Yeah, good to have you here.
Yep. Just working along through the week. So today, I thought it'd be fun because Goose is the one that sent me this super rare vintage Eye-Zack double Zeta kit. I'm looking forward to getting it built. We might be able to. You guys know how terrible I am at building kits live on stream, and whether or not I'll be able to actually build it in one go. So we'll do what we can. But before we dive into the build proper, I do want to share some updates from the supporter stream that we had yesterday. I had a few people watching me as I was doing some updates to the high mobility ground type Zaku resin kit. Turns out that they actually made a master grade resin conversion kit for the high mobility ground type Zaku. Didn't know that, but it's like $109 for just the resin conversion kit.
Yeah.
So I'm like, again, this is why I'm dedicating so much time and resources to making high grade resin conversion kits that are like like turnkey. Is that the right phrasing?
Yeah, I think so. Affordable, easy to expand it wider than just those like enthusiast hobbyists.
Exactly. Just maximizing accessibility.
Yeah.
So that said, it was a failed print. Let me switch over here to my table cam. So the print failed in a number of different ways. Mostly 3 of the 4 legs pieces failed to print, and then there's a couple of other failed print pieces, but I think that there's some valuable lessons learned here. I mentioned on stream yesterday that we went with a flatter foot plate armor instead of like the the typical Zaku foot plate goes up almost into the ankle. I don't even know if that shows up on camera. Whereas this one's a little flatter, it kind of sits lower, which works out nicely because when you fasten leg armor on, you see how much lower ankle sits. And so it just gives you that much more clearance. That was a huge huge design improvement. And then yeah, backpack fits a lot better. We don't have that shearing issue, so we're almost there. Version
cool.
5 is, I would call it I call it a qualified success.
Yeah, that's definitely accurate.
See, when I was on your stream yesterday, I can never watch them. I can only listen to them. So it's nice to actually see what you actually did for once.
Yeah.
There you
And I did, so I mentioned this on stream, is that I added notches on the shield so that we could do the same thing that like the origin kits have, where you can attach the grenades on there, but this shield is just ever so slightly wider than the origin shield, so
See, I like that.
it doesn't
I think it
quite
looks
fit
better.
yet, but I think it's like I said, it's all improvements. Looking down at chat, Ultronymous, who is that good looking dude? Captain Philippines, good to see you. Let's see, yeah, Ultronymous, Zeonic Shadow, what's going on? I saw Dan earlier in chat, so good to see you guys. Yes, this is
Yeah.
actually a Korean kit from Academy. It's not even a Bandai kit.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's I'm fascinated because I only have 2 kits from this line. One of them is this one, and the other one is the full armor double Zeta that I have. This guy that I've been working on with
yeah.
the
The
magnets.
magnets. Yeah, that's cool.
So they're a little more simplified in their design, but I think it could be fun.
Yep.
Steven, I'm going to tell you a little story, and you're probably going to roll your eyes at me. You know I've gotten everybody that's in our little circle a gift. You were the one that had been left out the most when it came to kits. That was a honest, I only bought it for you because it looked weird and it had double Zeta on it. I had no clue that it was that rare until you did a stream on it. You're like, look how rare this thing is. And I was like, yeah, I did that on purpose.
Yeah, it looks like a
Part of
Steven
my
kit.
plan all along. Let me see.
I mean, already just looking at the runners, I mean, I would just assume Bandai.
Yeah,
Like,
there's no inclination, or there's no indication that it's not.
yep.
Yeah.
Captain Philippines is saying, I'll admit, a rare kit like that, I would be so hesitant to even open the box. But I'm sure you're going to keep the box.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. And I mean, look, one thing I'm going to give Academy over Bandai is that, this era of kits, this thing came out in, I want to say 1990. I don't recall. I saw the year on it somewhere. But how many Gunpla manuals are printed in full color nowadays, let alone in 1990? Like,
yeah,
credit where it's due.
Yeah, that is awesome because and does it did it have like non instruction like info tidbits in there that are just more about the general story?
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it does appear to have
Oh, that's cool.
a little bit of lore and background about sort of the Eye-Zack. Technically, this is like the same as like the Eye-Zack. The Eye-Zack being like the Zaku. This is a Eye-Zack that's got the early warning system on its head, which makes you wonder, as far as like the Gundam universe, what is it about having a massive head that allows it to overcome Minovsky particle interference?
Yeah, and I guess that's just something that cannot be done on a regular mobile suit that is for normal combat. Like even playing GBO2 with the Eye-Zack types, like those are support generally, I think. I don't know, but you would normally want to protect them, stay out of the way.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I was going to bring up over the design of that. It looks like those old spy planes that have the big radar dish on top.
Yes, exactly. I think that they definitely stole some inspiration from that in the design of these types of mobile suits.
What was I watching recently that it's either Seed or Macross where they went out. I think it was Macross maybe. They went out and they had their own little ship that had that disc thing on it and they like crashed into an asteroid or something. I forget the. Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yep.
And
oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, Captain Philippines is asking if Bandai came out with a kit of this.
Well, they did recently. There's I want to say it's like an HGUC that came out a couple years ago.
Oh, let's see. I'll search here on the side.
Right, I feel like I'm on Rogan. Yep. Jamie, pull that up for me.
Yeah, I know, right? I like to do that though. I like being able to pull up the stuff. I am not seeing it. Oh, yeah, there's RM. Oh, it's EWAC.
Oh yeah, so they call it the EWAC as opposed to the Eye-Zack?
Yeah, but it's the same colors. Yeah. Oh, Blue Forces mass produced. Blue Forces? That's something I don't know.
So that's the blue team from Double Zeta.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I forget about that team aspect they got rocking in Double Zeta.
Yeah. So, interesting, I guess, tidbit. I'm wondering, like, because the blue team is one of the reasons that Glemmy decided that he was the heir to the Zabi family and rebelled against Haman was after he encountered the blue team on Earth. So it's like, you gotta wonder, these guys that had been separated from the colonies for so long, they're the Xeon remnants fighting on Earth. What interest would they have in rebelling against Haman and propping up Glemmy?
The only thing would be in that piece of dialogue that I made a video about was that Glemmy is a true heir to. But then you have, Minerva, which is with Haman. Pretty much Haman's just kind of the person that enacts on things. And Minerva's kind of there with her. But yeah, I wonder if just some people felt Glemmy was more of an heir just due to the fact it was, a kid of Garen, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's there's so many awesome little bits of Double Zeta that I think get kind of like so many loose story threads that they never tied up.
Either they never tied up or they were just, it's confirmed information, just not made in a big deal to where then people talk about it a lot. Like even that Glemmy thing was a surprise to me. And then I had to research it just to kind of get some information. So.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of cool lore stuff that that was kind of left out.
And you know what?
A lot of speculation.
With multiple heirs, I think they default to the older one, so that makes sense too.
Well, I thought Garen wasn't the oldest, was he?
Well, if we're considering Minerva,
yeah, because wasn't her dad the oldest?
I think Garen was the oldest.
Okay.
Yeah, well, Glemmy was older than Minerva. That's how I'm seeing why someone would then pick Glemmy to follow.
Plus, at least he's an actual Zabi as opposed to Haman, who, even though she was just the regent, it's like...
Yeah.
Captain Philippines says, Xeon politics is such a headache.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something that we were actually just talking about before stream, is I'm like, was the blue team really Xeon at all? I mean, the Eye-Zack is Federation mobile suit. That's a Titan's mobile suit.
Yeah.
So, like, when and how did they get a Eye-Zack, and why are they using it?
Yeah, that's another thing, especially that part in UC. It's like really no one knew what they were doing. Like Federation didn't with Titans. The AU had to try to figure out what to do, and then it just kept. And I think the backbone of it all is just it's the Federation just making sure that military industrial complex just keeps moving forward. That's I think really what it all comes. Yeah, if we look at what Anaheim was doing, is probably what was really going on.
Something I've always wanted to ask you too. and I guess I'm going to throw out a podcast cast question to you guys. If Xeon just wanted their independence and they were already living like solo, why didn't they just move the colony out further into space?
It's a good
I
question.
think, you know what? That is a good question, and sometimes I go back and forth because it seemed like Xeon had an idea, but in the origin, it made him seem in Xeon Zoom Daikun, it made him seem a little more aggressive with his ideals than, like where he was willing to enact action. So it's almost like there was, yeah, they wanted independence, but they also wanted to create their own governing independence. Which then, like with someone like Giran, it gets to his head, and I guess his father almost compared him to Hitler in a way. So it could be that a lot of them, it got to their head of taking over as opposed to just being independent.
Well, and I mean, they're not even the furthest out from Earth because you have the people that went out to
Oh,
Jupiter,
yeah,
like Shirako.
Jupiter. That's right.
But that's what I'm saying. They would have been more isolated and could have had their independence out there and not felt like they were being forced to do stuff. They could have just been like, peace out, we're heading this way.
Yeah, good
yeah, I
luck, you
wonder,
guys.
'cause there was Federation occupation on their calling aside 3. I don't remember exactly, but like, did they ever show? I know there was. Did they ever show them like fighting? I guess before the 1-Year War, other than like some of the clips in Origin, are there like any major battles within their colony due to the Federation occupation? That would be an interesting story.
Yeah.
I'm sure that happened in some capacity, because yeah,
What,
that
like
is a good point.
Igloo, maybe? Was there anything in Igloo that kind of covered that?
Oh, good point. No, yeah. No, I think, yeah, there's something to them wanting to actually take over. I think it may be, yeah, twisting the ideals of Xeon even further.
So I'm going to bring something else up real quick, and this is more for Adam. Do you feel like Seed is correcting? Because I know you're watching Gundam Seed.
Yeah.
Is correcting the original story on a lot of beats? Because I think you and I have had a conversation. I hate the new type magic BS. And I feel like they were fixing it with the coordinators, and then they went too far with it personally. Like, I feel like they had the good idea with it, but dropped the ball with space magic again, in a sense.
Well, yes, so far, from what I've seen from Seed, now I'm still working on Destiny. You're right in terms of the coordinator thing does not seem to be that big of a deal. But like you're talking about, and you see where they do the new type magic. But to be honest, the way they do the new type magic in UC, I think I'm fine with overall, because it reminds me how the Force kind of uses a lot of Eastern philosophy. I think new type uses a lot of like modern science into neuro stuff, psychology.
Yeah, I mean, the new type BS really only gets ridiculous in Unicorn.
Yeah, that's where. And even then, like they eased me into it. I got to say, I remember, and I still think about this to this day. And someone brought it up, and I wanted to make a video. It's that scene with the Big Zam, and we were just talking about him, and when he dies, or right before he dies, yeah, there's like that spirit thing.
Yeah.
And then I always thought, is that new type stuff, or is that like Amuro sensing the near death experience, and that they're just showing it in that form?
I always took that as Dozel's spirit in the shape of like a devil or a demon or something like that. Like, I'm refusing to die. Like, I'm going to stop you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is that a thing that Amuro is seeing because he has the insight into others' brainwaves?
Okay, I see what you're saying now.
Yeah. Because if that's the case, I feel like that makes more sense than when I initially saw it. And I was like, okay, all of Gundam is cool, a 0079, except this scene is a little whack. Like, that was,
or like Lala
cool.
being out on the ocean and her like,
yeah, and although, yeah, so
back to the being new types. Do you feel like everybody who's considered a new type technically is I want to try to make sure I word this correctly, don't have like the same powers in sense? Like, I know they can sense, and like Char and Amuro can talk to each other, but I feel like Amuro's new type is more of like he can sense the future and knows how to predict what's going to happen, and that's why he became a better pilot. Where I feel like Char's was more of like he can like communicate with people to where he can like follow my ideals.
Yeah. You know what? This is a
Char has like
great
a weird supernatural charisma to him, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah. No, this is a great topic, and like, you guys stop me if I'm talking too much, but I've been thinking about this, and I've even been doing writing up on this, where I want to just for fun talk about what are the different new types that could exist, and I have 3 categories so far: power, mind, and empath. Where it's some they're able to use their new type ability to overcome physical anything. Then there's the mind type. I would say Camille is a mind type, where he's just he has a better general like battlefield sense, but also emotional sense. It's almost like he can kind of understand and sense things. Like Char might be more of a mind type than a power type, even though Char is powerful. But then I also think the empath type would be a lot of what maybe comes of cyber new types, or people that just you don't necessarily see them battling. Like I would say Andalusia, was that her name from Hathaway?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
GG.
yeah,
oh
Gigi. Yeah, she would be a empath type because she senses Hathaway likes her, but he's not being honest about it. But he doesn't want to, and
then
that's what like 4 would be a
Lala.
empath type, and Camille is a mind type, and they connected that way.
Well, and it makes you wonder, can new types somehow tell that cyber new types are not a true, like, do they feel kind of like an aberration, and that kind of explains why there's that weird pressure that's associated with them?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Have they gone into detail of like what they do to make a cyber new type, or like who is eligible to do it? Like, are you like right on the border and this is like a push over, or like what do they have to do to unlock a cyber new type to?
I
Well,
have
if you're
thoughts,
going by
but
Dynasty Warriors Gundam 2,
okay, yeah, I
you
was
have
like, I
to
have thoughts,
engage
but I
in a
wonder.
relationship with us.
But Steven, have you heard anything official, like on what they are literally doing? Okay,
Nah, drug therapy, stuff like
okay,
that.
yeah, and so I haven't seen anything either. But you see them where they're attached to something, or yeah, drugs, or something is maybe to get them into a state of mind where they can almost force their brainwaves to act a certain way. That's all I can think of.
I know, it makes me so sad, that whole scene where Camille is trying to rescue 4, and they're like running through the facility, and he's like, give me the medicine that's going to give her memories back. And it's like, do you science at all? Like, that's not a thing. You can't just
Yeah, do you science? And I thought he did too, right? Didn't he win the junior, whatever the mobile suit competition, something like that? Yeah,
Thinking about a cyber new types, I'm going to take this conversation to a left turn right
yeah,
now.
do it.
I think it was a newer episode of Rogan. They were talking about how they're doing studies on death now, and how they're mapping people that are, I think it was DMT, and they're realizing that they're going somewhere else and connecting with other people and telling the exact same stories. And they're like, somebody's 100 miles over here. We've got somebody over here. And we're putting them down on long drips, bringing them back, and they're telling the exact same story and how they talk to each other.
Yeah, it's crazy when I've done that research where there's so many studies of this, but it's not like this stuff is talked in a mainstream way with everybody in a way to where, oh, can we leverage that somehow? Can we?
yeah.
It's more of that. Yeah, because if you read physicians that do multiple physicians doing studies with large groups of people, and then they all come back with the same information. Like I was reading something about hypnotists that they did the same study. Multiple physicians would ask people under hypnosis, when did your soul enter your body? And they give an answer that's between 4 to 6 weeks as a fetus.
Huh.
Isn't that random? Like, how come multiple people are saying this under hypnosis? So it's like we're all connected, in some way, and that's just made up, or is it that there's some information that can be accessed subconsciously?
Well, I mean,
Well, it's
some
like
people say that hypnosis is just a state of high suggestion, so you have to kind of take those
Yeah.
reports with a grain of salt. But I'm
Yeah.
with you. There are definitely case studies that show, um, sort of shared consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nike says, was that a double-blind independent study?
Yeah, it is pretty amazing though, because when I like to do research on this stuff, that it's like I can't explain, but how come there's so many reports of it? And then I try to look into like, okay, where are they actually getting this information? How are they getting this information? Because if there's
Exactly.
any point during that is up for debate, then I usually be like, that and even the brainwave stuff is interesting because when they study neuroactivity, they can see waves, they can manipulate waves from what's coming and what's going. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about with I like how in UC the new type abilities tend to align with theoretical neuroscience.
Yeah.
Typically, in seed, the only thing I tend to see is you see a literal seed for a split second explode, and it's like, oh, what happened?
namesake.
Yeah. So yeah, I wonder if
It's
near
like
the end of
that
the show
Bart
they're like,
Simpson meme. The like, say the thing.
yeah, at the end of the show they're like, well, this is called seed. Let's show a seed. Or yeah,
A little too much on the nose.
um, yeah, psych studies are always a headache since being able to repeat these tests are often inconsistent. They're inconsistent, but it's funny how the consistency is that there's some data transfer when your mind is in a state, that would not necessarily then be able to get this data, whether that's near death experience, being, and yeah, Camille, he was in a coma using his new type abilities to communicate to judo.
Yeah.
That's him using his mind new type powers to help train judo. And judo is in my opinion, judo is a power type, but he's learning how to harness his power through Camille.
Now,
Real quick, I want to shout out Ian real quick, my podcast brother. So he just wrote seed mode activate.
Do they ever say that?
No.
No. Okay. So that's just, yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Oh,
although
geez.
speaking of that, I do like the launch sequences are as long as like the Super Sentai transformations.
Oh yeah, they're just
like
silly.
Cool music though. It's like cool music and it launches like, oh yeah.
I hate that they send them out and it's like, all right, now combine to make the Gundam instead of just launching a Gundam.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we got to pad that runtime, boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it always reminds me of that scene from did you guys ever watch that cartoon Frisky Dingo?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Do you remember the episode where Killface turns to them and he's like, "Can you guys hurry up? We only have 11 minutes for this part of the kidnapping." It's like he knew what the runtime of the episode was. Like that's the kind of fourth wall breaking humor that I enjoy, where it's like,
yeah, it's about the
a little tongue in
itself,
cheek.
Yeah, it's like how that show Community got, like, where it was just referencing the fact that it's a TV show.
Yeah.
There's a show I never got into, and I hate that because everybody I know is like, oh, Community this and Community that. I just never got into it.
Don't feel bad. When everyone told me that and I first started watching it, I could not get into it at all either. And then I don't know how. I think the second time around, and this was just recently, like I think I watched it like November through January or February with my wife. I don't know what got me to stick with it this time around. I think it may be like Chevy Chase in general. I started appreciating more as I got older. Because I think his comedy, even his stuff in the early 80s, like could happen today and he could still be funny. Like, yeah. But you watch it when you get a chance, if you get a chance, because the references, like, I love them. They even have, when they get a new table that they always sit around, it's called the Mark II. Like, I love that. Like, and they even have it says on there Mark II. Like, it's just stuff like that is,
They were having fun, is what they were doing.
Yeah, and yeah, again, they have episodes where they're talking about this is a TV show, so this episode is gonna have this stuff happening. Like, it's so self-referential that it's like you're just in on it with everybody. I get it. With the people. Yeah, that's a pretty neat way to go about it, because fourth wall breaking kind of does that, where they're having the viewer be in on it. But Community, the later seasons, you're like in on it with them as you're going on a ride, and not much media does that, like movies and TV shows.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of them are winks and nods to themselves as opposed to a wink and a nod to the audience.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Goose, get to it, because a movie's coming out apparently. That's like 6 seasons in a movie they always joked about, and apparently that's really happening.
I have to watch that.
Yeah.
I haven't actually. I've been God, I'm gonna get so much hate for this. I'm just now getting into the new Gundam series that everybody else has watched, and I'm like, I want to watch it in English first. I'll go back and watch it in Japanese. And
yeah, no hate on that.
And what do you think so far?
Right.
It's all right. I mean, I'm not going to be one of these people. It's like, oh my God, this is the worst series ever. And it's this and that. And they're woke in this. And I'm not one of those people. And I'm not going to be like, oh my God, this is the greatest series. And I'm so happy that they made this. I'm like, cool. It's another Gundam show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I know we're on a Gundam podcast, but.
No, I mean, that's Adam and I are famously, UC. What UC elitists, UC supremacists? What's the
UC
slur?
Supremacists?
UC like supremacists.
See, I'm gonna probably really shoot myself in the foot for saying this. I think the only good UC show, besides one character, is Stardust Memory. I think Nina is horrible. They just took the Nina character out. That would be a killer series.
Yeah, I mean, Nina's pretty terrible.
She's kind of a dumb character, but to be honest, it doesn't really bother me too much. You got these young people that are they're young.
Like noses.
Yeah, well, the noses are okay in Stardust Memory. I gotta say, they did.
I'm sorry, I was OS 8MS.
Yeah, 8th MS Team and Seed. Oh my God, Seed faces in general. Jeez.
Oh yeah, you just copy and paste the hairs onto different faces.
Well, and speaking of, and sorry, Goose, real quick. Speaking of the audience being in on it, for the people that have seen Destiny, they have that character that is Lacus, but it's not her. It just looks like her. I almost feel like
you're in Destiny already. I thought you were watching the first Seed.
No, I just finished Seed, and I had to start Destiny just to see what it was about, and I love it so far.
Okay, have you noticed them ripping off the same footage from the first series yet?
Yeah, the first time the Freedom does his thing, it's upside down, but it's the same shot. He's just upside down. I thought that was funny. Yeah.
You gotta do what you can to
No, the fact that they purposely have a character that looks just like Lacus to get Athrun, and she's like, yeah, I'm not her, I just look like her. I feel like that's a play on the fact that all the characters look like each other. Like, there's so many things. Like, yeah, I think the video this morning that I had that dropped was me, because you guys probably haven't seen it yet, but it's me talking about my first impressions of Seed Destiny and how much I really do like it. And
Shin is awesome.
Get out of here.
I got up to episode.
Out of here.
If you had to choose between Shin and Kira,
yeah, Shin's cooler.
I mean, Shin is not a suitable replacement to Camille. I still think that Camille is a better character than everyone in Seed. But like, you know,
Kira is like a
Mary Sue,
an introverted Michael Jackson cosplayer. That's like the best way I can explain it. Like,
I'm
gonna make that a T-shirt. It's just like Kira in his like, because it's basically the music video bad, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. The buckles all over the leather jacket, and yeah, that's the thing. Like, I didn't care for his character at all in Seed. Like, what he's about, what he's going through. Like, I don't know. It just seemed like he was there, and then he has a good relationship with his parents.
Now, real quick,
who has a good relationship with their parents in Gundam? But no, Goose, go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna pull up people from G Gundam. I was like, no, they have bad.
Yeah.
Domo was like, my dad's a liar, and then he finds out his dad's truthful, and he's like, I'm so
So
sorry.
here you go. Captain Philippine says, I don't know how true this is, but I heard around the time Destiny was being made, the writer was suffering from dementia, which would explain why the second half of the season is about Kira instead of
It was
Shin.
the wife, I think.
Wow.
It was a husband and wife couple.
It's like, oh, crud. I forgot that I was writing a really good story about Shin. So, like,
Well, I gotta say, I like Shin's a lot so far, so I would be afraid they would do something horrible to him. And they might, I don't know, but so
Yeah.
far, if we're saying that no, it becomes a Kira show later, then that's cool.
yeah.
But I
So-
like Shin's motivation, like the way he reacts and what he's doing. It's like, oh, I get that character.
Now, I want to answer Nike here because he says, out of curiosity, would you want to see an origin style retelling of Zeta, Double Zeta, Char's counterattack, etc.?
Yes.
Hey, I want you guys to go first because I will talk forever.
Yeah,
You
so
go, Steven. I'll let you go first because I'm going to be honest. I've never seen Zeta or Double Zeta, so I can only talk about Char's counterattack.
and here we are building a Double Zeta kit.
Like I said, it had 2 Z's on it. I was like, oh, he's going to love it.
It's got to be
I'd
twice as
never
good
seen
as
the kit
Zeta.
before.
But
Gundam fan.
yeah, I read something on Twitter today that really stuck out to me. I don't know if I agree with it yet, but someone said that all of the criticisms of Gundam the Origin lose their sting when you consider it a retelling of 0079 without the baggage of Zeta, Double Zeta, Char's counterattack, etc. So almost considering the idea that, like, okay, so if Gundam the Origin is a retelling of 0079, but never planning to do Zeta, Double Zeta, then it kind of, it holds up a little bit better as its own individual work than as a piece of this larger universe and franchise. And so with that in mind, it's like, as much as and like I said, I don't know if I 100% agree with that, but I agree with it enough to say that as much as I would love to see an origin style retelling of Zeta, I would love to see just everything Zeta. I don't think that it would fit in the origin timeline because the origin timeline was never meant to fit in UC.
It was almost like making the original 0079 be more Zeta-like in a way.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So Goose, your thoughts before I...
All right, so like I said, I'm not going to talk about anything Zeta. I know characters, I know mobile suits to an extent, but I don't know the story that well. Over Char's counterattack, I really wish that they would bring the more of the origin story and just redo the whole UC and fix a lot of the
Char stuff, right?
I don't want to say plot holes, but I feel like there's a few unanswered questions. I wish that they would go back and maybe not kill some of the people that they killed off and maybe stretch their story out a little bit farther, because you guys all know that I love Ramba Raw. I would love to see him a little bit further. I would even maybe as a defector and to coach Amuro more or something like that.
Yeah, he would be at odds with... Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, so have you, and I don't think you have, Goose, but Steven, have you looked at that? I think it's called Zeta Define or Zeta. It's the manga that's redoing Zeta.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I haven't, you
Okay.
know, I only have a few issues translated, because I think Zeonic Scanlations is working through that one, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, I've read the beginning, and I already don't agree with what they're doing with Camille.
Really?
So his actions at the beginning, they almost make it like he doesn't, it's not his fault. Like these things weren't him. Like the thing about him being called a girl, that interaction with Jared was something completely different. That happens, but not where Jared overhears the name Camille and calls, hey, that's a girl's name. Like it's something different that happens. I forget. They like get in a scuffle in the first place, but Bright is right there too the whole time.
That's an interesting twist.
And then when I guess the officer's talking to him, he doesn't like, remember they got into like a little fight or something, like he punched the guy, and then that's when the RX 178 fell on the like. It doesn't happen that way. Like they're all already out there. Camille doesn't take a car and go try to run away. It like
Interesting.
immediately gets into the action, almost trying to make it where Camille didn't have these issues. And I almost feel like that works against his character. So
Yeah, I
thought
agree.
that was
I
really odd.
mean,
Yeah.
really, I can't stand any time that someone tries to go back and like fix a character.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Han shot first, or the Han shooting first, changing that was weird. Like,
yeah, because and that's kind of where you know, to shift gears over to Star Wars, it's like, you know, Han Solo's growth as a character over the original movie trilogy is that he is a scoundrel. He is a piece of crap at the beginning of A New Hope.
It's
And
part of him.
and through the course of his interactions with Luke and Leia, he redeems himself and becomes not a piece of crap that lies and, you know,
yeah,
and smuggles and is a thief. And so part of the problem that I have with like where Solo fits into the timeline is that Solo almost has him do that same arc before he even meets Luke and Leia. So it's like, and then, you know, the sequel trilogy then puts him back and says like, okay, well, I know that he had all this character growth, but we're gonna just rewind to back when he was a scoundrel. It's like,
yeah. I somewhat agree. Like with the sequels, yeah, they made it seem like he didn't learn anything.
yeah,
But in Solo, I think what I got out of that is the world was working against him so much that it made him not give a shit anymore. So he shoots Beckett first, you know, at the end. And then that kind of starts his arc of what happens throughout, you know, the original trilogy.
I also feel like that scene was done on purpose, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like,
it was.
they're like,
a little
he
bit of
shot
service.
first this time, boys.
Yeah, I really think it was done on purpose because, I mean, even it was co-written by the Return of the Jedi writer, and so he had some OT,
some cred.
yeah, some OT cred. You know,
We'll see, but then it's like, you know, if someone is a bad person because they, you know, because that's the life they chose, that's a little different than saying, well, they started out as a good person, then they became a bad person because the world was so messed up towards them. Because then you almost feel like they were justified. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, I don't want him to feel justified in shooting Greedo. Like, shooting Greedo was a bad thing.
yeah,
But I don't know. I see
No,
where you're going with it though. There's
Yeah.
definitely a wink and a nod there.
as much as I love what George Lucas did, special editions, not the Greedo thing. But yeah, Goose, you were gonna say something.
I just totally brain farted on what I was wanting
No,
to say.
sorry, that's me and my talking. Oh my god, I
Oh,
to say.
now I remember. And this is Steven just said something a minute ago, and I'm gonna make him go back on his wording and see if I can
Okay.
catch him in something. You said you don't like when people correct and fix things in series. You just want to leave it as is.
Sure.
Correct? This is for Adam as well. If you guys could change a pilot around, put them in a different series. I'm going to say we're pretty much sticking to UC, but if you guys want to change it to other series, that's fine. I honestly think, from hearing you two talk so much, and Ian's also blowing up my phone right now, throwing me questions to ask you guys. I think Camille would have been a better story for the UC than Armoro, because I feel like, I don't know, like everybody loves him so much. I don't know if maybe that was due to his arc in that series, but I feel like there's so many better characters in Armoro. Like, I feel like everybody calls Kira from Seed Jesus Yamato, because apparently he's 100% perfect. And I understand that Armoro makes a couple mistakes, and he steals the Gundam at one point, and he gets a slap on the wrist. And
yeah, I mean, I would say Amuro's far from perfect, but that's part of his appeal, I would say.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I've never been a big fan of him.
Well, the other thing too with Amuro is interesting is we learn about him in 0079, and then we see him for a little bit in Zeta, and it is interesting where he's at, where he's almost, you know, put under house arrest, but he does kind of get out there to help. But then Char's counterattack, it's almost like he was just a big part of everything. But then what happened during Double Zeta? And so I think that's what kind of makes it sometimes like we like Amuro, but sometimes don't really get him because I don't think they did justice necessarily.
I feel like they made him too cocky in that movie. I think that's my issue with him so much.
Yeah,
Is because
there
he's
was
just
less
like
the damaged,
Gundam
like
can do everything. It's like
yeah,
Well,
I can do this, and
yeah, I can do all things through the new Gundam that strengthens me. But yeah, well, and that's part of my problem with the conceit of Char's counterattack. As much as I love that movie, as much as the mobile suits are awesome, the music is fantastic. It really is just like, hey, I heard you guys like Amuro versus Char, so I made a movie called
Yeah.
Amuro versus Char. And it's like, script be damned, story be damned. Just we need to get Amuro and Char in a fight together, and this is how we're gonna do it. Now what I will say about like fixing Amuro as a character, I think that for the story of 0079, he's perfect.
Mhm.
Because the theme of 0079 is freedom and duty. And one of the things that, like, from the day you see Amuro, he has his freedom taken away because he's no longer allowed to be just a civilian kid. They're like, well, you got in the Gundam, and so now you're the Gundam pilot. And then that idea of duty where he doesn't want to pilot the Gundam, but he feels responsible for protecting the people on White Base. And so he's constantly in this sort of game of tug of war with what he wants and what is best for the crew. And you know, throughout the whole series, you're constantly shown these examples of like Amuro doesn't even want to fight for the Federation. He's like, I don't believe in what the Federation's doing. Like, you know, you've got all these drunk Fetty soldiers that are crashing at my mom's house. Like, what is like the and then like the interactions that he has with Federation superior officers, they treat him like a war criminal. It's like, you know, at any point, Amuro could have talked to a guy like Rambaral, a guy like Makuve. You know, he had a very limited interaction with Garma Zabi, but I think that if he had interacted with Garma or Dozle for any extended period of time, I think Amuro could have defected to Zeon.
But see, that's what I'm saying. Look at how many times he's had interactions with Char.
Char changed his tire.
Well, yeah. I thought you were going to say something. I was thinking of something else. But I mean, it's. I feel like he's only mad at Char because he's just like, oh, I couldn't be with Lala because I killed her by accident, and it's your fault that you brought her out in this war. Which I'm not going to even get into that. I understand that once again, new type magic, and I just feel like I feel like they dropped the ball right there on that story. Just my feeling on it. I'm not. Once again, I love Gundam. That was one of the shows that got me. Well, it is the show that got me into Gundam. So Gundam was the Gundam.
Well, and I think that's kind of the point you're making is like I agree that Zeta Amuro and Char's counterattack Amuro, it's like they don't know what to do with him because he doesn't really fit with the theme of those stories.
Yeah.
I would have loved to seen what they would have actually told story wise if they were given. They got what 13 episodes killed. Was more than that? I thought.
What are you talking about?
They canceled the series.
What's
the original Gundam series?
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Where they originally were gonna do a little bit more, and they had to like rush stuff, and yeah. I mean, and then it's interesting to think where there was a time where Char wasn't around for a while in the original 0079, and I think they're making a manga to kind of cover his story there.
I'm not sure on that.
Yeah.
What is the name of the book that Tomino wrote? It might be the original story.
Yeah.
Where spoilers to everybody. Spoilers. Amuro dies.
Well, so it's a novel trilogy. It's Awakening, Escalation, and
yeah, I've got the big book. I've got it around here somewhere. I have to find it.
I forget what the third one is.
Yeah. Adam's about to pull it.
Confrontation.
There it is.
Confrontation. I feel like that story right there is better than what we got in the series.
Yeah.
There's a
If
lot
Tomino
more.
had his way, it would probably be book version.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely you don't have to deal with the conceit of him being a civilian that's kind of thrust into it. Like he's already a pilot cadet along with Ryu and Kai and Hayato. Plus, you get all those other cool pilots. You know, you've got Job John and what is it, Milpo Splint, the meme character.
And there's
I
a
honestly
lot of
think they
gore.
also did Sayla justice in that series too.
That's true, and I think that's the novelization is definitely Tomino going back and fixing his characters, which you know, for better or worse, it's like there's some parts of the novel that are better, some parts of the show that are better. You know, the movie trilogy is also Tomino fixing his work. It's like there's some parts of the movie trilogy that are nice, but you know, overall, even if it's the original creator that's going back and fixing it, George Lucas has shown us that even the original creator can be wrong.
He'll go back and fix his fix.
Yeah.
I think George Lucas had the right idea, but then he went in too much to change. When you're changing character stuff, I think that's when it gets a little hairy. It's I like the idea of fixing special effects or adding scenes that just build the story more, but when you're changing characters around.
Yeah, because having that interaction with Jabba in A New Hope, that was supposed to be in there anyway. They just didn't have the technology to do it at the time.
Yeah,
I don't think that didn't take anything away from it. I think that the whole like stepping on Jabba's tail thing was kind of dumb. That was definitely put in there for kids.
Yeah, I feel like he did that just to show that like Han's a dickhead, and then yet he takes out him shooting Greedo first, which I'm like, you're trying to show that this guy's a jackass, and you're taking out the scenes that show that, but add this.
I think what happened was he was walking behind the actor playing Jabba in the original, and they had to kind of justify that somehow, so they made it where he steps on his tail.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because when I was a kid and I heard that, I was like, well, they should just have the tail wrap around because the CGI of him moving over the tail just looks terrible. Yeah, it was like, don't do that. Yeah.
But yeah. So let's see. In an hour, I was able to finish the arms.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna get on every podcast until you get that thing done. I want to see it.
Oh, there we go.
Now that said, there are going to be parts of this that need to be glued in. Like for instance, there's these pipes on the arms that they don't like actually fit in anywhere. They just kind of like sit.
Oh,
so they actually do have to be glued into place.
Did it come with any weapons?
Yes. Yeah, it came with a Zaku machine gun.
Okay.
How did it feel building it? Did it just feel like just some older kit, or did it feel like a completely different type of kit?
Yeah, you know, one thing that it's like for better or worse with these older kits, some of the parts are kind of like loosely fit together, and then you put other parts around them, and that kind of like locks them together. Yeah. I don't know if you are familiar with that, where it's like, you know, you put two pieces together and they have a peg attached to them, and it's like those pieces can fall apart, but when you wrap around the other piece that holds the peg together, that's what holds the smaller piece together. It's like it's a very clever design trick.
Yeah, it's cool that they have that there then. Okay.
But yeah, so I definitely do need to finish this. So would you rather have multiple episodes of building the Eye-Zack and we bring on Goose, or would you rather I have this built by next week, which I think I could probably manage, and then we have Goose on again to review the finished piece?
Let's ask Goose. What would you like to do? Because I think the multiple episodes.
If it's on Wednesdays, I'll just do multiple episodes with you. I've been. I'm not gonna lie. I know Steven's been focusing on building that, but I mean, me and Adam have had a full blown conversation about
Actually, I'm surprised at the conversation Steven was having while building 2 arms. I think I got a peg one time into a piece of plastic after an hour and a half of streaming.
Oh man,
I brought a kit to build with him, and then Adam shows up, and I'm like, I'm just gonna have a conversation with him.
I have one too right here with me, and I have done nothing. So yeah.
Well, and like honestly, that's the best part about these Gunpla and chill streams is that it's like that. This is just something to do with my hands, so that
and it's related to what we're talking about. Yeah,
hey, man, I gotta get some podcast practice. You guys already know what my secret project coming up is, so.
Oh yeah, but you're good. You're good. We got the G Watch. We do too. You're great on there. So
yeah, gotta boast that up. We got one coming up.
Yep, that's right.
Gotta get you on there, Steven. Why don't you ever do that with us?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. So much
I miss out on all the extra Gundam Explained shows.
No, that's cool. We'll get you in on one.
Yeah. But so that's about it for today. Hopefully, again, I will get the Zaku repaired. Yeah, I think it was just an issue of the supports. Once I figure that out, we'll get this thing printed and ready for production. Don't forget Gundam Explained show tomorrow, 11 Central, noon Eastern.
That's right.
Adam, you want to give us a little preview of what we're going to be talking about?
You know what? I want to continue some discussion on the new type thing, new type categories. Like
there you go.
Talking about new type powers, because I want to make a video about it, so I want to do a little more research.
New type tier list.
Well, eventually we'll get there, but first I want to categorize the new types, so then I can justify why someone would be an S tier that no one would agree with.
Yeah.
Real quick, do you think when you go through that list that you're going to have people telling you that they feel like this character is a new type when they might not be like Amuro level, but they would be considered in his category?
Yeah, I think there's some that could be power new types, but not as powerful as like an Amuro. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that everyone here would probably agree that Quest is like an S tier new type. I mean, she's that's like seems obvious.
Empath, yeah.
Fourth category. Very annoying.
Yeah, exactly. Abomination.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh God. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in and for keeping the chat lively. Hopefully you've enjoyed this this whirlwind conversation with Adam, Goose, and I. Again, we'll just pick this up next week and keep talking Gundam, talking Star Wars, and building an Eye-Zack. And until then, you can join us tomorrow. Gundam Explained. Links down in the description below.
Yep.
Until then, I will catch you all later. Stay goosey, everybody. Did
Oh,
I
you
steal
took
your
it
line?
from me.
No. Okay, you say it. You say it better than I do.
I can't do it now. See you guys.
Cheers.